Hey, welcome back everybody. Angriest Gamer here. So, I've got some bad news and I've got some good news. We're going to start with the bad news. I didn't really have much time during the holiday to complete the IAE thing the way I wanted it to. I actually did some recording, but I was in such a rush because we were entertaining family and stuff, and there was all kinds of prep work to do, that by the time I actually got a chance to sit down and look at it, I didn't catch a issue with the sound in time to see that, hey, like, I shot all this video and my mic, due to a software glitch, wasn't recording, so I basically wasted all those days of the show, and it wasn't possible to reshoot it. Dubbing over it is going to be a huge pain in the butt, so I'm probably not going to do that. So that's the bad news. The IAE rants and randomness thing, unfortunately for this year, has come to an end. The good news is that I have a better solution in mind. I was just kind of doing that as like a quick and dirty. I think what I'm going to do instead is pump out a little bit more quality content and really focus on the individual things, get my thoughts in order so I can go boom, 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 knock them all out in a nice, clear, concise manner without rambling or going on. And that'll allow me to target individual ships better and string them together as like a series of content. I might batch like 2 or 3 ships together at a time, depending on how much I want to talk about it and what things I want to talk about. So I'm going to start doing that soon. I'm not really sure what to call it, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. So as for right now, what I'm going to do for this video is I'm going to do a big list of things that I actually want to see coming to Star Citizen instead of like constantly complaining about stuff. I mean, there's going to be some complaining. You know, I am the angriest gamer. I'm a little salty. Well, I mean, okay, I'm really salty. I mean, I got this mental image of me standing next to the Dead Sea, and the Dead Sea looks like fresh water by comparison.
Down here, salt is a way of life.
Obviously, the environment down here is all salt. The ceiling's salt, the floor is salt, the walls are salt, and to an extent, the air is salt. And you breathe that in, and you can constantly taste the salt.
So anyway, getting started. The first thing I would like to see, in no particular order, return to the game, because we actually had this, and it drives me nuts that CIG ripped it out of the game, is ensuring FPS guns and gear and armor inside of the ship's loadout. Being able to customize your ships was the coolest frickin' thing ever, with weapon racks and, you know, suits and everything like that. We actually never got the suit functionality, but I really wish we did, and it felt like we made tangible progress. I could start seeing a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel when I could put all of these attachments on rare guns that I got, load them onto the ship inside the ammo racks, and no matter what kind of bugs or battle damage or shenanigans happen to me in game, I could always claim another ship and have that gear there readily available to me. Because hunting down for gear and getting re-geared up is a huge pain in the ass in this game, and they need to do something to curtail it. But what did CIG do? Oh, they took the worst take possible, because a bunch of gatekeeping, fun-hating Nazis on the Spectrum forums got in there, screamed and demanded that it be removed because they hate good ideas, fun, and general quality of life, and CIG, being CIG, dispatched a team of hunter-killer devs to root out the source of this fun. So they removed the entire system because a couple people were trying to dupe. It wasn't like an entire like dupe bug situation. I mean, you could tell that this system was designed to work with the game, because you could pick up a weapon off of the thing. Instead of claiming your ship, you'd land and tell it to resupply, and it would charge you for that weapon and any attachments that were on it. So that was pretty good, but because a couple people started using it to buy subscriber gear or whatever, load it onto the ship and sell it to other people in game, CIG lost their shit and yoinked it out of there. I don't think that should be an issue. I don't even think CIG should be selling like painted guns for $20 or whatever. I mean, that's insane. And the fact that they screwed over everybody else and this entire feature for weapon racks and stuff like that because of that really pisses me off. That needs to come back to the game immediately. You can still do your stupid freight elevator thing for your recovering your subscriber gear, but for the rest of us, our weapon racks need to get their functionality back. The next thing I want to see, obviously, I've talked about it in my videos and on my channel. If you look around, you'll see ship and vehicle armor systems. I don't really need to go into that again. The next thing I want to see coming to the game is carrier and vehicle support systems. And by that, I mean ships that have either hangars or docking collars or garages on them need to have a way to rearm, refuel, and repair the vehicles that they're carrying. So I would do this kind of like how they have with medical, where tier 3 is refueling only, tier 2 is refuel and rearm, and then tier 1 is all 3 R's: refuel, rearm, repair, everything. So things like the Constellation series would probably only be able to refuel their little snubs from that like docking port that they have, and it would take the fuel and stuff out of the ship's main fuel tanks, unless it had a separate fuel tank that it could fill the ships and stuff up with. And then that would allow you to support multiple smaller ships really easily, because they can come into the carriers and stuff, dock, refuel, do what they got to do, and then take off. And then as the fuel levels in the carrier go down, once the actual like large ship starts running out of fuel, then he can pick up the phone, call in a Starfarer, and be like, hey, I would like to order a fuel delivery. And then it's actually worth it for the Starfarer to lug his giant Corvette-sized refueling super tanker out there, pay the money in quantum fuel and hydrogen fuel to come out there and go get the guy, instead of coming out to refuel every tiny little fighter that runs out of fuel in 3 seconds, because their tanks are small and it's not worth his time. And it's overly clunky and cumbersome to try and refill a bunch of fighters with a giant Starfarer. Like, it's not really for that. There is something else that I would love to show you, and we're going to talk about that at the end. I hate modularity, as you guys know, and not because I don't think it's a good idea, but because CIG has never been able to do it. They've got no incentive to do it. They sit there and they'll make 30 versions of the same ship and charge you full price for each individual version, rather than selling one ship and then microtransacting the sub-modules like they should. And that drives me nuts. But there's this fan-made ship that I'll show you at the end, and ever since I've seen it, I've been drooling over it. At the end of the video, I'll get into that, but CIG needs to hire this guy, buy his model, get that thing in the game as fast as they can with all of the features it has, and give him a commission for every one sold, because this is hands down the coolest little ship I have ever seen, and real navies have something exactly like this ship that you're going to see at the end. I got to stop talking about it because I'm getting like in the spoiler territory, so we'll save that for later, but we will come back to it. The next thing I want to see is snubs being able to dock onto the docking collars, or the docking collars being able to be used in general, because a lot of ships have the docking rings and stuff, but you can't actually latch ships onto them and use them in space. It would be great if an Argo MPUV personnel or something could be attached to the side of a Perseus or attached to the side of a Constellation, and then you can load that up with people, and then they can go shuttle themselves off to another thing, or non-consensually dock onto a disabled ship or something like that, or illegally dock onto a ship with a either dedicated boarding pod or the personnel snubcraft, and then basically breach their door, cut it open, do whatever you gotta do, and start taking over the ship. And when I say dock onto there, I do mean dock, as in this thing, once it's latched on, it's anchored there in part of the ship, and then the ship that it's anchored to could drag it off into to FTL if they jump with it. So, I mean, that's the kind of ship-to-ship docking I want to see. I want to see it very, very badly in this game, which brings me to the next thing, which is ship-to-ship boarding. I would love to see a boarding snub, the Legionnaire. I mean, this is really cool gameplay that gets me excited, like genuinely excited. Like, elaborating from ship-to-ship boarding, we've got what I've got here in my notes called Grand Theft Spaceship. So once you board the ship, like, you can kill everybody, but then, or disable it, or plant a bomb on it and blow it up from the inside. I mean, you've got options. But once you do that, there should be some more gameplay revolving around, well, what do you do next? Do I take this thing to Grim Hex or something and then go try to sell it and get like maybe 1/3 of the value of the ship if it's in pristine condition? And I think that if you do try to go sell it, it should have like a condition status slider, basically. It could be real simple. If it's like 50% health, the ship's pretty beat up, it would only give you like 15% of the ship's value if you would have bought it with I don't want to say real money, but like through legal means. We'll call it that. If you would have bought it through legal means, it'd only give you 30% of its value if it's in pristine condition. If it's a half hull or whatever, it'll give you half that. If it's 75%, it'll give you 75% of that 30% of its value. You want to do this because you don't want people to be stealing ships all the time as a way to get money, because it's especially with larger capital ships and stuff. We're talking millions of credits here potentially. Now, yes, that would be really expensive, but it's also you need a group of people to disable like an Idris or something and steal it. So it's a lot of money, sure, but then when you start splitting that out to all the people who are participated in the raid, it becomes a lot less money on an individual basis, and maybe it puts like a permanent mark on your rep or something, and starts tanking your rep into the ground with the UE Navy. Maybe they put like kill on sight orders on you or all kinds of other things. There should be ways to repair your rep over time, but if you're going to be doing illegal stuff like this, you are going to probably want to be in it for the long haul. But that's if you sold it. There should be other things that you could do with it. Like, for example, what if you wanted to claim ownership of it instead of selling it? What if you wanted to say, okay, I would like to take this thing to Grimhex again, and instead of just pawning it off and selling it, I would like to take ownership of it. And before you can try to do that, they say, okay, it's got to be in pristine condition, so you have to go to like an illegal repair yard, which will have everything, but it'll be like, 50% more repair cost or twice the repair cost of a legal repair yard. So if you were to steal something like that, you've got a huge amount of money you have to sink into it. It should still be much cheaper to repair it and then do the things I'm about to list off than it would be buying the thing, but at the same time, there's got to be some pros and cons here, because we can't make just stealing ships too powerful, otherwise everyone's going to get them that way. So you say you want to steal a ship, you take it to the repair yard at Grimhex, which it would have to be because it's it's stolen. They're going to shoot at you if it's a lawful station, and they're not going to give you service. They're going to refuse it. You have to repair it up to full. That's step one. That'll be a hit to your wallet. And then we'll say, okay, now I want 15-20% of the cost of the ship. Probably 15%, maybe 20% of the cost of the ship to retune the drives and spoof the ID and generate some totally legit paperwork on the ship saying that yes, indeed, you are the owner of this ship now, and you totally bought it through legal means. Then the next thing you would do is you take it over to in-game insurance, and you could get basic insurance, which would just like replace the ship with its basic components, or full replacement premium insurance, which would replace anything that you've updated the ship with. So if you put gear in there, any like changes to the ship's like modules or weapons and stuff, because you have premium insurance, it'll give you that version of the ship back, kind of like what we have now in game. So that's like my vision for Grand Theft Spaceship and how I would do it if I could, make the calls at CIG. They actually have games out there like this. Like Grand Theft Auto will let you do this with all kinds of vehicles and helicopters and boats and stuff. I don't know if you guys have ever played the X series of games, like X3, X4, X Rebirth. They actually do have Marines that you can get specialized in boarding, go board ships, and then, you tank your reputation with these factions and stuff. You go board ships, it's risky, it's expensive, it's not something you can do day one, but there is a process, and at a certain point of the game, if you have the ability to basically launder the stolen ships, then yeah, it's a viable income strategy, or it's viable as a way just to add to your fleet and use it for your own purposes. And that is something I would love to see in Star Citizen. Obviously, players are going to be a little upset when their ship gets stolen, but they can always claim another one, and then somebody else can. Oh, actually, I just realized something. That would be a problem if I'm sitting there thinking, what stops somebody from just spawning a ship and letting his friend, air quotes, steal it? And then that is a good question. You might have to. I don't really have a solution for that. I would say maybe maybe look at the costs and stuff to make it to where it's like you profit from this, but it's not like a crazy amount. I don't know. That's something that you'd have to think about later. It's actually kind of funny that I caught that as I was talking about it. But yeah, so moving on to the next thing on the list. Player-made missions like freight or passenger transport contracts, stuff like that. Like get me through A to B. You write a little thing up in there, and there's like a global contract market or something that you can look at in like your Mobi-Glass, and you can go to the player-to-player contracts page, and it'll be you could filter it via the type. Is it a freight contract, passenger transport, repair, medical, stuff like that, and then you could see is there collateral being offered for if you fail the contract? What's the reward? How far away is the beacon or the pickup location? Where's the drop-off location? Like you could see stuff like that in there. What's the time frame to complete the mission, kind of thing. So I would love to see some more player tools like that for player-to-player trade and interaction, because not everybody has, for example, cargo ships. They may have miners, but maybe they don't have something to clear out the refinery and stuff. Well, if they could deliver their refinery stuff to just a generic station hangar and be like, okay, now I have 500 SCU of ore and stuff that's worth 2.5 million. I could set the collateral in there for 2.5 mil and be like, okay, pick it up at this refinery and take it down to one of the planets or something for me and deliver it to me. I'll pay you, I don't know, 50 to 100,000 credits for doing this for me. There you go. The transport player gets to use his ship, make some money. The person who didn't have the transport ship to do it themselves has somebody else do it for them if they're either lazy or they, like I said, they didn't have the ship and like literally couldn't transport the stuff down there. But now they've got their goods where they need to go, and then they can go and sell them. Or if you just don't feel like flying somewhere, you can just be transported A to B with a passenger contract or something like that. I think eventually they're going to have like a civilian in-game passenger service inside the different terminals and stuff, and they'll be going to different points. Like I think you go from, for example, New Babbage. You would take a shuttle from there, and it would go up to Port Tressler, and then from Port Tressler you could go to the different ports over the different like main planets, and then from there you could go down to the planet or go to the local moons and stuff as like connecting hubs. I think there's plans for that. We had it on the roadmap a while ago, and then they took it off. So maybe we'll see like passenger transport missions, tier 0, and in-game shuttle services. It's kind of like the trains and stuff, but for other planets, which is pretty cool for new players. You don't have ships that can either go across system, or they just don't know how to fly and they want to get somewhere to go hang out with their friends without having to get picked up. So that's something that I think would be really good. I'm looking forward to shipboard refineries and overhauling the boring refining gameplay. It's not even really gameplay. It's put ore in box, pay money, wait, collect ore, sell. It needs work. So I'm looking forward to the shipboard refineries. We're supposed to have fuel scooping and gas harvesting by now. I have no idea where it is. There's a lot of ships that have like ram scoops on there that are supposed to be able to generate their own hydrogen fuel, especially a lot of the explorers and stuff like that. And then the Starfarer is supposed to be able to go into gas giants and stuff in the upper atmosphere and just start like scooping on an industrial scale and filling up its own hydrogen tanks and converting that hydrogen stuff into hydrogen fuel. It's also supposed to be able to take refined quantanium off the market, load it onto the ship, and then start processing it and turning it into to quantum fuel. So we don't have that functionality in there, and I really hope we get it. I don't actually have a Starfarer. The refueling gameplay is not really my thing. But just because I want to see something, or just because I don't like something, doesn't mean if it's useful I don't want other people to have it, or I don't see how it would fit into the game. So there's a lot of things that even though I talk about them and say, hey, they should do this, that, I'm actually personally not super interested in that gameplay. But like I said, because I do have a background in game development and stuff, and it's not always about me and what I want. It's about making the game better for a wider audience of people. That being said, there's going to be a segment of this video where we sit there and talk about things that I vehemently hate. They're the dumbest crap ever, and people who want them should honestly be shot and ignored. But we're not quite there yet. So, moving on from fuel scooping and gas harvesting, onto drop tanks or extendable fuel tanks in place of missile racks. I mean, this is another functionality that real fighters and stuff have, and I wish that they had, you know, exactly what it sounds like, an expandable fuel tank or drop tank that you could put on your ship for giving up, you know, like missile racks or something like that, or missile space. You would put this on there and it extends your flight range, and you could pick, is it a quantanium fuel tank or is it a hydrogen fuel tank? But you can choose, you know, how many of them you want. The next thing would be similar to that, except instead of fuel tanks, it's expandable ammo stores that you can add to ships in place of missile racks. So say I wanted to have a kinetic ammo box or ammunition magazine for my kinetics, and that would expand the total amount of trigger time and bullets I have for all my weapons. It could just be a simple modifier, you know, it doesn't need to be super complex, and then the bigger the weapon mount or the bigger the box, the more bullets it gives you. CIG has talked about wanting to do this, but then the devs talk about, oh, we don't know how to do it. It's like, what do you mean you don't know how to do it? It's literally modifiers. You have modifiers being used all over the game, and then you sit there and say, oh, we don't know how to do it. Like, are you kidding me right now? Get your shit together. Like, you can't be that stupid. Like, you actually cannot be that stupid. Stop saying you don't know how to do something and then just get it done. Like, Jared has said it. Like, it's time to either shit or get off the pot, you know? And that's where we are right now. Like, do it or don't, and let the game die. And if you don't know how to do it, then we need to replace you with somebody who does, because frankly, it's really easy to add a tag to something and have the back end look for it and be like, oh, this weapon is connected to a turret, multiply the weapon's ammo by this much, or this ship has a multiplier for these hard points, you know, add this much ammo because it's a heavy fighter. You know, it's basic stuff. It's so easy to use multipliers and link things together, and to sit there and say for years on end, we don't know how to do it, we want to do it, but we don't know how, like, actually pisses me off. It shows, like, what either weapons grade incompetence, or they're being disingenuous and they actually have no plans to do it and they don't care about it, and they genuinely don't see why it's a needed feature. When it comes to things that I've seen them do, like, they'll have in like those Q&As, they'll have devs get up there and get asked, when will we get more projectile ammo? And they'll go, do players really need more ammo? We want, you know, these guns to run out and eventually have to have players, like, rearm. Well, no shit. That's how projectile ammo, like, guns work. But I don't know what version of the game you're playing, but it certainly isn't the live version. We don't have freaking thousands of rounds or minutes worth of ammo. On most of the guns on the live server right now, there is 300 or 400 rounds of ammo on really high rate of fire guns. So we have anywhere from 8 to 14 seconds of ammo on Gatling guns. That's nothing. It's empty. Done. That's dog crap. That stuff needs to be fixed. I would also really like to see them, like, lower the ammunition threshold, or the shield bypass system, from 70% down to 50%, because 70% is a little too darn oppressive. And they also need to lower the well, I would still keep the 70% bypass for missiles, but not for, you know, projectile ammo. So that needs to go down to 50, and then the hull resist needs to go down to 30%. And for those of you who can do math, you may have noticed that the before and after is about the same in terms of damage, but it's kind of not. I'll throw some numbers up on screen here to where you can see where in the categories in this example having the before versus the after stats would affect different things. So, and you can start to see how that would be more useful. For example, shooting down the shields first before you actually start attacking the hull, because then you get a lot of bonus damage, whereas right now it's almost none. And you could also see how missiles would be able to do more damage than they do right now with their very, very limited supply, which is also a good thing. But yeah, moving on from there, I would like to see more air-to-ground weapons like rockets and bombs and stuff added to the game. And if they do add rockets, they need to ensure that they have the fixed assist added to them, like with projectile weapons right now and gun mounts, because some of the old early renditions of rocket pods I mean, they were like perfectly straight, or they were slightly offset, so you'd be like firing in a V or firing like perfectly straight and not actually hitting the target in the middle of your crosshair. So that's something that the fixed assist or like micro gimbal would fix for those. Any kind of air to ground weapons are a good thing. And then building off of that, I want to see more co-pilot systems and stuff. So a lot of the stuff would be things that the pilot can do too. For example, scanning, queuing up missiles, sub-targeting, and programming in like weapons, like laser codes, for example. Because that's another thing I want to see is buddy lasing. Like we need a way to encourage multi-crew gameplay. So if you're just a pilot by yourself and you want to use these air-to-ground weapons, you should be able to fire the rockets and bombs. But they would be like basically in what is known as CCIP, or continuously computed impact. So they would be dropped dumb. And they would hit exactly where you're aiming, but they wouldn't track a target that's moving, for example. Now, the pilot could go into the sub-menu and say, okay, change it from CCIP to, like, guided, for example, and then enter in a laser code in there, and then he would not be able to laze himself. It would rely on the second seater or the co-pilot or somebody on the ground with a dedicated, like, piece of lasing equipment like we have in the military now, and they can say, hey, I'm lasing on this code over here. So that way it encourages the multi-crew thing. So even if you're just one guy in the fighter, you can still fire the guided munitions, but no matter if the guy's on the back seat or he's on the ground somewhere, you have to coordinate with a second player to encourage that combined arms multi-crew stuff in order to fire these air-to-ground weapons in a guided manner. So that's one of the things I would really like to see. Plus, you know, when they changed the scanning system just now, and they made it to where you can't sub-target ships' components unless you scan it first, being able to say to the co-pilot, hey, I'm going to fly the ship and dodge missiles and stuff like that and try and stay with this guy. I'm passing you control of the missiles, scan the guy and start targeting his engines or his like shield generator and stuff, and let's start picking off his subsystems and disabling them. That would be a huge help. Another thing that I would like to see them do in regards to multi-crew and especially co-pilot stuff is take the like navigation part of the ship, like plotting a course, and take like docking requests and stuff, and when somebody inside either the pilot seat or the co-pilot seat or the like astrometrics room plots a course or requests docking with something, the entity that's doing that is it's placed on the ship rather than the person who made that request. So now if I'm a co-pilot, I can sit there and plot an escape route for my pilot so he can get the heck out of there while he's busy like fighting and dodging stuff, and I can take that workload off of him and be like, okay, let me fumble with the map and be like, okay, I've cleared our route and set a thing here, align to it and warp, you know. Or the co-pilot can sit there and talk with air traffic control and request docking and do whatever he's got to do while the pilot works on flying and deploying landing gear and VTOL mode and all kinds of other stuff and dodging traffic in and out of stations and doing what he's got to do. So this is an example of multi-crew, at least in terms of the co-pilot stuff, things that would be very beneficial to the game. Security sweeps, like doing an internal security sweep, would also be another thing that might be interesting. But that may be a little bit more geared towards an engineering type station who can play with counterboarding type stuff, and we can get into that some other time. But moving on from there, the next thing I want to see, again, has to do with multi-crew, and that is the ability to spawn on your friends' ships. So if you're in a party with them and they have beds on the ships, I mean, you should be able to spawn in there. Like, wasn't it eventually planned or originally planned for AI to be part of the ship's crew and stuff like that? And weren't you supposed to be able to kind of like stream into the AI, like take control of the crew that's on that ship, and then play as that crew and play with your friend temporarily, and then when you're done, the AI would go back to bed or whatever? I mean, that is a really good system to allow people to connect with their friends from wherever they are in the galaxy and get a multi-crew play session in there without having to herd cats and people coming from all different like corners of the game and different star systems onto one thing, trying to figure out like how to to get a play session going, and it taking hours to freaking get everybody together, and that's if they even want to show up to begin with. You know, not everybody likes to do the same thing. Not everybody like wants to take their limited amount of time and get on and go do something with somebody else. So being able to just stream in, take control of an NPC, and then stream out and go back to doing what you're doing is a really, really cool feature. And when they talked about that a long time ago, like this is old, like 2013, 2014 time frame, I thought that was a great solution. And it's nowhere to be seen. And I mean, guys have all seen NPCs T-posing and standing on chairs. Do you seriously trust these NPCs to execute complex tasks like firefighting, mining, or like repelling borders or repairing battle damage and stuff like that? Hell no. I certainly don't. And on the topic of AI, for the love of all that is holy, where the heck are our AI blades and other NPC crews? Like, we need to have them. Large ships are freaking useless right now, and people don't get to use them. And some people are of the mind that, oh, I don't want people to take out a bunch of large ships and then just bury me alive. Okay, well, the other option is, well, first of all, I respectfully disagree. Like, that's exactly what you should be able to do. However, there's caveats to that, and we'll get to that in a second. The other option is, you get like 30-40 people together to crew one ship, and then the big org still has a big destroyer, and if you bought a destroyer or a frigate or a corvette, you never get to undock it because you never get to have enough crew to actually man the thing, so you never get any use out of it. Whereas the big org, they may not have multiple of them, but they have at least one, and you still have none. So I mean, the group is always going to beat the individual, no matter what you do. And the bigger group is always going to beat the smaller group. I mean, I don't know what to tell you, unless there's like a huge skill and equipment gap. So I would rather have a system in place where, yes, I can throw a bunch of AI gunners into my ship and maybe one or two players on a ship, and then actually get some use out of it and have fun with it, rather than trying to organize God knows how many people to do boring, mundane tasks on a ship that frankly is not really going to happen and is not realistic. Then you start seeing more ship sales of larger ships, then you start seeing more people using them, and the game is better off for it. I mean, I get where they're coming from, not wanting to have like 30 javelins or whatever, all crewed by NPCs, but remember when I said NPCs are probably not going to be very good at firefighting and damage control? I'm totally fine with having 30 javelins be up there. Yes, it might beat the one like fully crewed javelin, but if you pull out like 10 or so javelins at maybe like half crew strength or quarter crew strength, you'll probably be able to troubleshoot and do things that the people running around in just empty ships full of AI gunners can't do. Like controlling battle damage, repelling borders, putting out fires in a giant ship. I mean, these are all things that are going to accumulate and make a single piloted capital ship, a single person piloted capital ship, a living nightmare. So that's why I'm absolutely in favor of reducing the total required number of actual players for larger ships and letting AI fill in the more mundane and menial tasks like loading and unloading the ship, sitting there in gunner chairs and doing boring things. See, the next thing I want, obviously, like I've talked about this in some of my other videos you guys have seen, I want a medical Ursa. I want it so bad it's not funny. Just basically just a crawling version of the medical Pisces. The reason I want this is because I can stuff the Ursa and more things than I can fit the Pisces. I mean, it's that simple. I want utility snubs, like a Murai Acolyte with like little tractor beams on it, so like a Fury, but it's got all tractor beams, like all size 1s, and then I could use that for lifting up like rocks and stuff while mining and moving those out of the way, or really large containers, or lifting up ships and ground vehicles and helping load and unload, moving ore and giant cargo containers at a deep space mining operation, or cargoes and freight and vehicles either at a spaceport or a space station. I mean, there's a lot of uses for like a heavy tractor beam snub that has like 4 size 1 tractor beams. There's a ton of uses. Or even if it's 2 size 2s, like the arms like pinched together or something, and then it's just 2 size 2 tractor beams, that would still be really helpful. The next thing I want to see is like a MPUV salvage variant. I've talked about that before. I call it the Locust. I mean, it's self-explanatory. The only thing it would be able to do is just hull scrape. That's it. It would not be able to like break things down. If you wanted to actually like grind stuff up, you would want to bring at the minimum a Drake Vulture for that. So I mean that would be pretty cool. Another thing I want to see is what I call the Drake Raccoon or Trash Panda, and that is based on the Mule's Haul, and it is the same thing as the Locust, except it's a crawling version of it. It's just a ground-based version of the salvaging system. All it does is hull scrape, and maybe has like a little tractor arm, a pair of little like salvage sucker arms, poops out a box out the back, prints itself another one, and keeps going until it's full. And then the guy with the tractor beam can come by and just move the individual boxes into the ship that they're landed by, and that way you can get in there underneath gun turrets around bases, or it's like a really like Nubro entry level like salvage experience type thing, like kind of get your feet wet in it and see if you even like the gameplay before committing to a larger ship like a Vulture. I mean, I think that's really good to have that kind of functionality. Eventually they're going to have ground-based vehicle refueling. I personally don't care for it, but if they're going to have a fuel truck, I think a modified version of the... I mean, obviously you can make your own unique thing, but I think a modified version of existing hulls, like, for example, the Gray Cat Rock or whatever, pretty beneficial to have. Like, it's got like a tractor beam arm or something, or like a remote fueling probe, and you just come up to the vehicle, plug it in, fill it up, and it can go. I mean, again, I don't really care for all this obnoxious tedium in gameplay. I would rather have like my magical pads, land on it, call it up, and be like, hey, rearm, repair, refuel me, and then just take off. I don't think everything needs gameplay. I really don't. Oh, and then another thing I really want is size 0 quantum drives for snubs. Look, before you sit there and like crawl up in my ass and deploy spikes and sit there and go, you don't know what you're talking about. Quantum drives are too crazy for snubs. They shouldn't have it. No. We have size 0 equipment. Very, very tiny. Way smaller than size 1. When I say a size 0 quantum drive, I am talking like purely for quality of life and to help you get around from A to B quicker around a planet and maybe to its local moons and back, and that's it. Like, if you want to even leave that local planetary area, you still need to dock with a larger ship. So the reason that you would want to have this is so people can get some use out of the snubs, so they can dart around, do some like really, really small scale local missions around a planet or around like a base or something. Go do what they gotta do, maybe visit the next city over on the planet and then dart back to their base, that kind of thing. So super, super tiny fuel tank, like a light fighter, for example, currently has 500 liters of fuel. When I'm talking about size 0, and the light fighter also has a size 1 quantum drive, when I'm talking about size 0 quantum drive, I'm talking about maybe at max 25 to 50 liters of fuel. Like, we're super tiny. Like, not enough to go anywhere. You would still need to be able to, like, resupply from the mothership and stuff, which, is fine. But CIG needs to do this to respect players' time more. I'm so tired of taking off in orbit from a snub or something like that and having to go down to a planet to do something, or worse, make multiple trips up and down, where it takes 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes going down there. And then what the hell is everybody else on the ship going to do as it's parked up in orbit? Waiting around as there's that stupid multi-crew thing while I go down to do what I have to do to resupply the ship with the snub or ferry people around. I mean, can you see how this is getting ridiculous? They need to stop adding things that take away from gameplay and add tedium, monotony, and grind to stuff, and make systems that are just time sinks. They need to respect players' time more. They need to cut down on the time sink. They need to do the opposite of what they're doing. So having a size 0 quantum drive that is the shortest range thing you can possibly imagine, that just allows you to go up and down really quickly, and like maybe like 2-3 minutes down, and then you land, you do what you got to do, and then just zip and teleport back up, or not literally teleport, like it's quantum travel, guys, you know how that works. Back up to your mothership or whatever, land, unload, refuel, do it again. That's all I'm asking for. I'm not asking to even go out to the Lagrange points around a planet. And keep in mind, Stanton is tiny. All right, so other systems are going to be even bigger. So maybe if you could go to a Lagrange point one way, that would be the extent of your fuel, and that's only applicable to Stanton. Like the Sol system is huge. There's a bunch of other systems that are absolutely huge. Maybe you could only go to the moon and then land on it one way before you have to refill. It really depends on range, but like you get the idea. I've talked enough about quantum drives. For the snubs, obviously the Pisces would still keep its size 1. That's fine, but things like the P-52 Merlin, the P-72 Archimedes, the MPUVs, and maybe the Furies and stuff like that, or any other snubs we get in the future, they would all have size 0 quantum drives, so they'd be incredibly short range. Because the P-72 Archimedes is more of like a civilian racer / explorer type snubcraft, and it doesn't have that spinally mounted like size 2 Gatling and its ammo in there. Maybe it has a fuel tank that's twice as big, or 2 to 3 times the equipment storage that the more militarized version has. And maybe the more militarized version has, I don't know, but like not quite bespoke. Like you could use the ones that we have now, but like the little like quad pack size 1 missile racks on the wing nubs there, because right now currently the P-72 Archimedes is way, way, way stronger in terms of firepower than the dedicated combat one, and that's for a number of reasons. One, because there's no like benefit for getting a bigger gun in terms of DPS, and 2, because this is another gun that only has like 200 rounds of ammo, and you're empty in 8 seconds or less. So that thing needs to have like 2 minutes of ammo on the Merlin, and it needs to also have some missiles so it can lock onto other snubs, or maybe be used to deploy from a base or like a mothership or something like that, and shoot down a couple oncoming super heavy like size 9 torpedoes and stuff like that, and defend the mothership a little bit. That would be, you know, pretty useful, but I don't know if CIG is going to do that. I really hope they do. As for a boarding pod snub, I don't think that one should have a quantum drive, just due to the nature of what it is, but it probably should be like relatively fast and armored. Obviously no weapons or anything. It's literally just like a driver and 2 passengers, or 4 passengers. I mean, that'd be it. Yeah, that's pretty much it. You know, moving on to the next thing. Honorable mentions of stuff I would like. Working weapons and stealth mechanics. I mean, after the great flattening that we had forever ago with the weapons, we still, to this day, have not gotten any updates for ammo, range, damage, anything. That stuff is horrible. I've done weapons videos previously on the channel, and then you can look at that and see that. I think they're pretty interesting. I would love it if the game, you know, went in that direction. Heck, and the CIG can hire me and I'll do it. I've applied to them in the past, and I actually saw some Glassdoor stuff. They actually had a hiring freeze for a while there, so maybe that's why I didn't get in. I just unlucky. Applied during the middle of a hiring freeze. But yeah, I mean, I would love to come on there and start working on this stuff for them, but you know, you'd actually have to hire me. More honorable mentions: a working map system. We did see that in Squadron 42 reveal stuff. We see a lot of shit from CIG during CitizenCon that just never makes it to the game, so you know, we'll see. I mean, I would love to be able to search for targets and actually have a map that works, but again, we'll see if it comes to the game. Being able to save bookmarks and add location pins and stuff when I find cool things around the verse and then travel back to them, that is a huge quality of life thing. I would love to see that. You know, fixing the ship loadouts that need it, that, you know, are either poorly designed or ill-equipped to do their job, or badly thought out, or just weapons that are just missing from loadouts in the game outright, like the air-to-ground weapons. I mean, like, stuff like this is things that we need. Like, for example, the Redeemer, the gun layout on that is backwards. The pilot has control of all the little guns when it's a sub Corvette. It's a gunship. I didn't say Corvette, I said sub-Corvette, meaning it's smaller. Its technical classification, if you were going to draw like a real-world parallel, would be like a fast attack craft or something, or a patrol gunboat. That's what the Redeemer is. Except the crew has control of these big size 5 turrets, and the pilot has control of a twin size 3 and twin size 4 guns. Again, that's backwards, because you put turrets on something that are able to quickly track and slew onto targets and engage them, that the the ship itself cannot line up on. So if they were to reduce the weapon size of the turrets to size 4s, and then turn around and give the pilot size 5s, either like 2 or 4 of them, and then I guess remove the. I mean, you could keep the chin like twin size 3 slave to him. I'm not saying remove that. I'm just saying like replace the stupid size 4 weapon mounts that he has underneath his wings, and maybe add like another 2 on top of the Nutcracker thing, above it. That would help it be like anything the pilot could actually get its nose on and strafe. It'd be able to attack, and then the turrets and the gunners and stuff could engage anything he couldn't get his nose on, and it would be able to do its job as a really like nasty gunship attacker type thing. That is just a better configuration for the ship. So that's just one example. The Gladiator not having any kind of air-to-ground ordnance, having the improper missile loadout, and I mean I can pull it up on screen here. This is what I wish we had. You know, it's what we were sold, and it's not what we got. Versus, you know, just some simple fixes that I did here. Like if they did things in this picture here, like the Gladiator would just work. You know, it would actually be functional, especially if you unnerfed the size 5 missiles and made them actually have their proper amount of damage. But the missiles themselves are like a nightmare. All of them, they need to have like damage looked at. They need to have tracking ability looked at. The countermeasure system doesn't work and has never worked. The speeds, I mean, on and on it goes. I mean, and it's not at this point things are becoming so entangled. It's not just missiles. It's like shield bypass, hull, kinetic and explosive resist. It's a lot of things causing issues. The Harbinger Vanguard, for example, is another one that's terrible at its job. It has less size 5 torpedoes than the Gladiator, which is a light bomber, and the Harbinger Vanguard is a dedicated like medium torpedo bomber, and it's inferior at being a torpedo bomber compared to the Gladiator. You know, so that's another one that's looked at. I would also give the Gladiators, like the pilot, I would upgrade the pilot controlled guns from size 3s to size 4s, because it needs to be like a light attacker. So in order to do its job better against things like Connie and Corsair and Redeemer sized targets, it needs more punch, not more DPS. It's not a fighter. It doesn't need a bunch of guns. The pilot doesn't need control of the little, like, you know, bullhorn turrets on the top. It needs larger guns with heavier punch and armor penetration. So putting size 4s on there would be perfect. Size 5s are a little too big. The Perseus is another one that's crap. Having bespoke like kinetics is dumb. Not being able to change weapons on a Corvette sized vessel is dumb. Having basically the entirety of the bottom of your ship completely undefended from even a single torpedo coming at you that can one-shot you is dumb, because the AA turret they have on the bottom is in what is essentially the butt crack of the ship. It's in this little cavity there. You can only see directly behind and directly below it. So it has a 85% dead zone, and they need to remove it from there and then move that turret off to like the bottom nose or something like that and get it out of there, so the turret can actually look around, you know, below it, behind it, left, right, front, back, etc. The RSI Galaxy is another one that's kind of terrible. They need to upgrade those guns from size 5 to size 6. They need to add an AA turret onto the bottom and the top, so it can actually defend itself from any oncoming ordnance. Like, I agree that if these ships get hit by a large torpedo like a size 9, it should one-shot them. But the bomber should have to work for it a little bit. They shouldn't just show up and fire one torpedo and get a guaranteed kill, because that's horse crap. You know, and people need to learn the difference. I know that it's not a freaking, you know, military vessel, but people need to learn the difference between having basic self-defense and shit-kicking everything you come across. Asking for basic self-defense where you can defend yourself is not the same as murdering everything that comes near you. So when I say it should work for a little bit, maybe he gets a couple bombers together and they do a saturation attack on you to get one of the torpedoes through and kill you. Or maybe he fires all of his torpedoes off at once at you and one of them gets through your AA screen and connects. That's what it should be, because, again, you're multi-crew ships and you're getting wiped out by one guy. I mean, No one's going to want to do that. It's bad design. You can sit there and go, oh, you should be defended, blah, 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 or it's not meant for that. It's a fleet ship. It's like, in a fleet battle, it's every man for himself. Everybody's busy doing other things. They're not going to drop what they're doing to try and intercept a missile coming at a little, like, unimportant ship that should be escorting something else. If something is an escort ship, typically, in the real world, it can defend itself on its own, and then they put it next to something else to add to the defenses and be a layered ship. In CIG land and Star Citizen, for some reason, when they say something's an escort ship, they mean it hides next to the supercarrier underneath its skirt and hopes it doesn't get shot at and prays that the supercarrier can frickin' defend it. It's completely bass-ackwards. Another ship that, has things that don't work is the Carrack. I mean, we don't have the drones, we don't have the jump point plotting systems in there, we don't have the deep space scanning array that the Carrack is supposed to have. The cargo modules on the Carrack, and not even modules, the elevators, the cargo bays are supposed to come down on the side of it like the Connie does, so you can actually access it from the outside to load and unload these things. The Carrack, to this day, for whatever reason, does not have that working, even though the cargo refactor update came and went, and the functionality for that was just never added. Speaking of another one that's kind of bad, the Constellation Taurus, for some reason, has half of the health on its different subsections and overall hull health than the other constellations do. I mean, why that one's the odd duckling out, I have no idea. If they wanted to have it have less health for some reason, maybe make it 25% less or something. So, like, if you had, say, 20k for each section on another constellation, this one would be like 15k instead of 10k like it is now. So having it be half health of the other constellations is a little bit too steep of a nerf. I don't even think it should be less than the other ones at all. Or I think that maybe the Taurus, the Phoenix, and the Aquila should all be 15k health, and then the Andromeda, since it's the more militarized one, yeah, that one can be 20k. That's fine. So that's probably what I would do. I would raise the Taurus's health, and then the Aquila and the Phoenix, I would lower its health a little bit and leave the Andromeda alone. That's something that you could do. But the shielded cargo compartment on the Taurus, that doesn't currently work. You can still scan it. You're not supposed to be able to scan it. I don't think the MSR's ones work either, and it's supposed to. And the door on the Connie Taurus for that secondary compartment is too small for you to actually load and unload the thing, except via the little terminal at a trade station. So if they remove magically loading and unloading those ships, I don't know how you're going to get stuff into that compartment. That's either going to require a model rework, or there's going to need to be like a way that they can lower that like back section down on like a separate like cargo elevator or something, and then load it up that way. But that's kind of all I've got. I mean, this video's a lot longer than I thought it was going to be. And because I'm the angriest gamer, we're not allowed to have a 100% upbeat and happy video. I've got to end things on a more serious note. Like, there's not been enough ranting in this video, so this is where we're going to start ranting like crazy. Things that I could not be paid to give less of a shit about than I already do. These are the things that I talked about earlier that I vehemently hate. I hope they never come to the game. If you are somebody like the people on the Spectrum forums trying to convince us why shitting in hygiene is a good idea and should be added to the game, you need to be fired out of a cannon into the sun or fed into a wood chipper. No again, and hell no. I could rant for hours on every reason that this is a terrible idea, but I don't think that the majority of the people who play this game are as respectfully stupid as you are. You know? I mean, games should be fun, not Second Life simulators. Games should not add things to them that take away from the aspects that people actually want to play and do. And just because you're part of this bizarro, like, little group of people that actually want silly things like hygiene, eating and drinking and stuff like that, doesn't mean everybody else does. Pretty much everybody else that I have ever talked to vehemently, myself included, vehemently not only hates that idea, we hate the eating and drinking. Like, we can't stand it. We would opt for a permanent 10% reduction in health and slower run speed no matter what, in order to turn off the requirement to ever have to eat or drink again, to say nothing of shitting and hygiene. We do not want that stuff anywhere near the space game. We also don't like the incessant elevators and train rides to do literally anything. We don't like that it takes 30, 40, 50 minutes, hour, 2 hours for people to get from A to B flying around the frickin' game in a one system like game right now, alpha, and it's the smallest one, mind you. We don't like that there's no way to do effective multi-crew, or even like without multi-crew, just group up and do content together. You know, we hate stuff like that. We don't like the time sinks. We don't like going out of our way to do things that we don't want to do, like manually loading cargo, for example, or setting up refining jobs and coming back to collect them days later. I mean, this stuff is crazy. Oh, I just realized I also forgot to talk about the really cool ship, so I'm going to do that now. This is the thing I was talking about earlier when I said it's a fan-made ship. It's made by Stoic Sunbro here on Reddit. And it's something that real carriers and real navies actually have. They have this multi-role utility craft, and I love that this person made this, because not only is the design really cool, it fulfills very needed roles in an actual like military space fleet that you would see out there in the real world, and they actually pulled inspiration for this thing from the real world based off of a number of craft that actually fulfill these missions. And there's a community of people that for some reason hate drawing inspiration from anything in the real world, and then go off to make just the dumbest nonsensical things ever, or basically try to reinvent the wheel and do the same thing that ships out there in the real world do, but do it 1,000 times worse and say that it's somehow better. And I never quite understood that. But we're going to take a look at this thing real quick, and I showed the little like video clip earlier of the thing that this person made, but we're actually going to take a look at their post. So this is the different variants flying in formation, and then let's see, let's blow this up. You can see how it's made for logistics. You got the different modules. This is like your medical emergency module. This is your heavy lift module. I mean, this thing has given me UNSC Pelican, like the Star Wars Lat Transport gunship and multi-role, like utility craft vibes. I mean, this thing is awesome. You got a refueling module. Like if I was using this, I'd have like 1 Quantanium and 1 hydrogen fuel. You've got like a cargo module, this gunship mod for like ground support, where you can strafe things on the ground and fire a big howitzer at stuff. I mean, if we like right here's the cargo module. You can see how large it is relative to a person. It's got like a little tractor beam on it, as you can see, probably like a size 1 or size 2 tractor beam, like a bunch of other things. It's got 24 SCO cargo. I mean, this is what I don't know if this will fit in the frigate. I don't. But this is the exact kind of thing that a carrier or even the destroyer would have. I mean, this. So you can see the medical module, and notice how they have lights on the bottom of the ship to where you can actually see what's underneath you. That is so freaking useful. It's not even funny. Like, CIG really needs to work on the light placement on their ship. There's a bunch of ships, if not all of them, would benefit from having not just nav lights, but like a set of landing lights. So if you go into VTOL mode, or you go into to landing, you should have the ability to also turn on your bottom like landing lights. But you can see here how they talk about how they've got these pods that are kind of like the bounty pods, but they just keep you alive. They're for medical. And you can see the heavy lift thing, and this is what I'm talking about with like the LAT gunship vibes, or the Halo Pelican. Like this would be perfect for taking tanks off of a destroyer or a carrier and then bringing them down to the planet below and deploying vehicles, because you're not going to have like C2s and stuff like that docking with the carrier. It's just not going to happen. So how does the UEE get like ground vehicles on down there in extended deployments? Do they have C2s just follow them across multiple systems? Or do they have stuff like this that's able to deploy the tanks? I mean, this is freaking stupid levels of cool. And then they've got the refueling module, like I was talking about. They've got the gunship mod, how you can see it's got the This is that one CF788 size 4 cannon, and then this is probably like a pair of size 2 or size 3 Gatlings there that it's using for ground support. I mean, this would be really good, especially if they up the damage. This would be fantastic for dealing with infantry in the open, sending them like flying with the concussion wave and stuff like that, or smashing defenses. And then this other one would be good for high sustained damage on like vehicles. Me personally, I'd probably just use the cannon for everything, because why shoot machine gun bullets at something that a big cannon could be shot at instead? Just not really what I would do. And this shows you the overall like layout and size of the thing. Some of this is pretty old, so they have references to things like jump modules. I guess this is supposed to be the quantum drive's here. I don't know why it says jump module. You can see how much smaller it gets with the wings folded. This actually might just barely fit inside of an Idris. And if that's the case, this is the perfect utility craft, because it can be configured to do whatever you need. And I hate modularity. The guys who watch my videos and stuff, they know I hate modularity. Not because, again, that I don't think it's possible or I don't think it's a good idea. It's a fantastic idea, but CIG doesn't do it. Except that they actually do it because every gun that they've put on their ship is in essence a module. So when you change stuff and you're putting a gun on, that's a module. But then when it comes to actually doing it, something that's not a gun, they go, oh, we don't know how to do it. We're dumb. So get your shit together, CIG. As for shield generators, this thing would probably have like 1 or 2 size 2 shield generators, maybe 2 for what it is. The single power plant, it's very lacking on firepower, which is fine. It's got like, I think it's got like 2 size 3 guns on the top, and then a twin size 1 like chin turret on the bottom for hosing infantry as you come in for a landing. And that's all this thing really needs. And then here you can see the VTOL, yada yada. You guys can pause this and read at any point there. Then you get some internal stuff, how they have like a civilian version of this thing, which is kind of like an explorer type thing. I don't think I would personally have this internal variant, because there's like 2 or 3 variants of the ship. I would have the more militaristic one, and what the variants do is they change the internal loadout basically of this thing, because most of the stuff is external. But this is an example of the civilian one. This is the military one that you probably have, so it's like an internal drop ship kinda, and then they've got like probably a door gun that would swing out when this doors open up that you can like hose stuff out of, kind of like a smaller version of a Cutty Steel. Obviously you can only carry probably about 6 or so people here, but you also potentially have that tank that you're dragging along behind you, or there's so much stuff that you could do. This is the Minesweeper and early warning electronic warfare version of this, and you can see the stuff that it has, and they are referring to this as like a plasma tank. This is why I said it's like really old. I don't know what the plasma tank thing is that they're referring to. Maybe they mean hydrogen fuel. I don't know, but this is like, this concept was updated. I think this thing actually competed against the Redeemer back in the day, and the Redeemer was selected. It was a little rougher back then, but this person kind of said, you know what, F it, I'm going to keep sticking with it, and kept working on it. And it's just freaking incredible now. And then here we see the lineup of how big it is versus other things. Keep in mind these wings fold. So it's long, but it's kind of wide with wings deployed, but it's not much bigger than some of these other ships, and you could fit them in anything that'll accept a Legionnaire will accept an Osprey. Heck, you could even probably stick it inside something that an SRV would fit in. And then here they talk about the history of it. They have the lifting capability and the troop transport. They got the Minesweeper version, the cargo delivery and long range like troop transport, etc. I mean, you can kind of see all the stuff there, and that's all I wanted to add at the end. I mean, whoever Stoic Sunbro is, if you ever see this video, fantastic job. I hope CIG basically either hires you or buys your model and gives you a commission on every single one of them sold, because this thing is freaking awesome. that's kind of all I have to say for that. I gotta stop making these super long videos, but it is what it is. Alright guys, if you've enjoyed my content, like, follow, subscribe, join my Discord, comment, do whatever you're gonna do. I'd appreciate it. If not, I actually don't know how you made it this far in the video and watched it all and you don't like what I have to say. That's kind of weird. Alright, and with this we've reached the end of the video. If you made it this far, that means you probably liked it. And I'm trying to grow my channel and get 1,000 subscribers, so if you're not subscribed and you're interested in my content, subscribing would really help me out. I also set up a Discord for those of you who are interested. If you want to come say hi, pitch some ideas, ask me some questions, or, come hang out and play some games, Discord link is in the description below. I've got everything pretty well automated there, so all you really have to do is when you join, go to the announcements and rules channel and just click the thumbs up reaction there. That'll get you verified in basic access, and then from there you can see the roles channel and you can react to individual game roles that you want for access to those channels and the news feeds and stuff like that for those games. And if you are thinking about getting Star Citizen, using my referral code here would really help me out. As you can see, you pick a game package or whatever, and if you spend at least $40, I'll get a referral point. I will say this though, if you are thinking about getting Star Citizen and don't have it, there's a couple times a year that CIG does like a special promo for people who get the game, and I'll have announcements here. So if you subscribe on my channel and you're waiting to get into the game and get a starter pack, I will let people know when they're doing it and what the offer is, because when they do these offers they give you a buy one get one free kind of thing, and then it gives you a second shipper vehicle for free, and it has something called lifetime insurance. So if you don't know what that is, ask anybody around, or Google's your friend, it'll help you out and they'll tell you why that's kind of a big deal. But if you use my referral code and sign up during one of those, you'll kind of get like a buy one get one free deal, and you'll be helping me out. So if you're interested in playing Star Citizen and you don't want to spend a lot of money, that's what I would do. It'd give you a nice little head start. Alright, thanks for watching guys. Take care.